Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we gather here on the stolen land of the Gadigal peoples, who lived, as you know, and learned here for more than 40,000 years. I wanted to thank Zoe, and I wanted to thank all of the other hard-working people here at the Seymour Centre, and especially the Dalai Lama in Australia organisers who have been working flat out for the last several months. Thank you all sincerely for everything you've done to make this wonderful gathering of interested and young minds possible. I can't see most of you, but I think you're there. So everybody, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Keane. I'm one of those academics, one of those strange animals who long ago forgot the meaning of the word irrelevance. I'm Professor of Politics here at the University of Sydney, and I'm Director of the Institute for Democracy and Human Rights, which is very pleased, and I would say just a touch relieved, to be hosting this morning's encounter with His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. It's virtually a full house. Hands up. There are 788 seats here. Hands up in the audience, those who feel excited, even though I can't see you. Oh, all right. So the secret's out. We have 788 people excited. Our subject this morning is Education Matters. Indeed it does, big time. And by coming this morning, you've shown that it does matter. The university lecture is a precious invention. You may know that it is actually a gift from the Muslim world, where it was invented. In my day as a student, that's 100 years ago, I noticed that quite a few of my peers grew tired of lectures in 10 minutes. I noticed that the clever ones did it in 5, and that the busy students thought that lectures were actually never worth going to at all. But here you are. Thank you all for coming, for getting out of bed early, for showing that lectures still matter. Now, to help us through this morning, we are lucky to have Dr. Susan Banky. Susan, I think you should wave or say hello, who is our university's award-winning teacher and researcher in the area of human rights. Susan will moderate the questions from the audience that will come shortly. Our distinguished speaker needs no introduction. What he does need, perhaps, is a concluding thank you. And that's going to be provided by Sohoon Lee, Sohoon. This is Sohoon. She is a PhD student here at the University of Sydney. She comes to us originally from Korea via Canada, and she's writing about the important subject of migrant women in Korea and the law. And we have His Holiness. During the past week, I chatted with 2 Sydney friends about His Holiness, and I asked them to say the first things that sprang to mind at the mention of His Holiness. Quick as a flash, the first friend said, I am quoting, "A living Buddha. I do not think of him as an ordinary human being. He lives beyond this world. He is, for me, someone I have to figure out, someone who has presence, who can enlarge my mind, who does not live his life according to human greed or sorrow or power. We are lucky to have the Dalai Lama." The second friend said, and I'm quoting, "The Dalai Lama is a real leader, a teacher. He's no boss. He has a sense of humor. He likes to chuckle. He's even been known to eat cornflakes. He stands for nonviolence. Born of a humble peasant family, now living in exile, he's said that the next Dalai Lama may even be a woman, even that the role of the Dalai Lama may be abolished. He stands for compassion. He shows us a possible path, not just for Tibetan people or just for Buddhists, but for all people, Han Chinese people as well, a way of behaving well in the world, better than we do at the present. Your Holiness, on behalf of our institute and the body of students and teachers here gathered, please may I offer you a very warm welcome and hello, Tashi Dele. and for traveling across oceans to be with us on our shores. A most generous thank you to Duce. And yes, we are, all 788 of us, pretty excited to hear what you have to say about the subject, Education Matters. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. I think at the beginning, I may speak from there. I want to speak from there. I prefer, I would like to spend more time question and answer. Okay. Dear brothers and sisters, and of course respected brothers and sisters, and young brothers and sisters. Oh. I thought something fixed. Now this is not fixed. Indeed, I'm very happy sitting with young, bright human brothers, sisters. I think two reasons. One reason, I usually describe my generation. Perhaps as the professors also, I think, same generation. So, my generation, usually I call generation of 20th century. They're now already gone. In any way, past is past. Nobody can change or reshape past. Now you, most of these, although I cannot see very clearly, see your face, I left his Shamad Lashatri.
His Holiness left his visor.
But I think most of you, I think young people, so you truly the generation of 21st century. This century, only 13 years passed. I think the 12 and a half, like that, passed. But the 12 and a half.
13 and a half, something.
13 now, only June. So half, not complete. He tried to make correction, but it seems it's the wrong correction. So in any way, I think over the 86 years yet to come. So future, although there's no guarantee, but future still, like space, we can maneuver. So there's a real, particularly future of humanity, the present generation, have some opportunity to lead what kind of 21st century. So, the future is concerned to these young people. You have the real sort of opportunity or real responsibility to build happier world, happier century. My century, when I born, Even living Buddha, as your friends say, even living Buddha, you see, born at a time of quite miserable world where 35 I born. They nearly Sino-Japanese War nearly now start. Then soon, Second World War. Then Korean War, Vietnam War. Tremendous suffering. And the Second World War, even nuclear weapons actually used. I had opportunity to visit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Really terrible. The one museum there. I still remember one bunch of needles melted, become like one body, like that. And when I first visited there, I saw some patient victims, some old lady victims, really terrible. So in any way, according some historian, in 20th century, around 200 millions of people killed through violence. Immense sort of violence. But if that violence truly brought some new shape of the world, better shape, then some may argue, that immense violence have some justification, right? Some positive result. That's not the case. Only suffering, fear. During the Cold War period, I had some opportunity to visit West Germany and also West Berlin. I can feel fear. The other side, the nuclear weapon, ready to shoot, like that. So really, the 20th century, all those centuries, I think, really wonderful in human history. A lot of invention, new invention, technology, and medical science, and in many, many fields. However, that century becomes a century of violence, century of bloodshed. So now, what we learned from past experience, violence is unrealistic method to achieve their goal. I think one clear example, Iraq crisis. The motivation and the object, good, bring democracy and eliminate totalitarian dictatorship. But method, use force. So that's why unexpected sort of consequences happen. So using force, violence, in ancient time, may be realistic. Each community, each nation, more or less self-sufficient, independent, then destruction of your neighbor is your victory. At least emotionally, some kind of satisfaction. But today, modern world, not only nation to nation, but also continent to continent, heavily interdependent. Like global economy. National boundary is not important. And then also ecology problem, global warming. It's entire human being, entire world now facing. So we have to work together. So entire world, I usually call 7 billion human beings, is actually one entity, like one family, one human family. So their interest is our interest, and our interest is their interest. That's the reality. So according to that reality, using force is unrealistic. The very basis of your own future destroyed. Since you see everything interdependent, like that, interconnected. So now my main point is the generation who belongs to the 21st century. Now you should build this century be century of peace, century of non-violence. And century of peace and century of non-violence ultimately is a little bit here. Peace of mind, peaceful mind. Genuine peace must develop through inner peace, full of anger, full of fear. You cannot build peace. So therefore, number one, I really feel great honor talk these important generation of 21st century. Then secondly, a little bit silly. I'm now old man. Now 70, I think now 70, now nearly 78 years. Quite old. So, old person, another old person. Then sometimes I feel whether you go first or me go first. That meeting, young people, I also feel a little bit younger. So that's why I'm very, very happy meeting with you. Now the main topic. What is the education? What is the purpose of education? Anyway, I think we can say this way. Everybody wants happy life. Everybody have the right. Then effort to achieve that goal must be realistic. No matter, as I briefly also mentioned, no matter how sort of sincere motivation and justified goal, right? No. Justified goal. Justified. But method, unrealistic method, always bring disaster, failure. So method should be realistic. Now there are gaps, appearances, and reality. So very purpose of education is reduce this gap, reality and appearances. Many unrealistic sort of effort come on the basis of appearances. Sometimes too much simplified. No, simplified. The reality much complex. Particularly when certain sort of effort, certain decision taken by because of the agitated mind or too much emotion. You can't see the reality. And any decision take under our mind because of the dominated by emotion. You can't see the reality. Because once strong emotion develop, our mind become biased. Biased mind never see the reality. In order to know the reality, we must look objectively. So the education, very purpose of education is, despite the appearances, we go to deeper level. Animal cannot do that. We only human being, this marvelous brain, have the ability to go deeper, because of the penetrate not remain on the surface or appearances, but go to deeper. So the education, the very purpose of the education is try to reduce gap, appearances and reality. Now look, existing modern education, I think, generally speaking, very much oriented about material value. So in material development is concerned, I think the modern education is quite sort of sufficient to analyze. Unlike science, it's really analyze each particle sort of their abilities were. Because
Capabilities, potentials.
Potentials. And through that way, you see, we develop a lot of sort of different new useful things. So, in material field, I think the existing education is really marvelous. Look now, not only in the past century, but within this present century, also there are a lot of problems. Many of these problems, essentially, man-made problem. Man-made does not mean women, women not included. No. Sometimes women also quite troublemaker. So, I mean, so the many problems actually we human being created. So these creator of these problems, including violence, like terrorism. And now today, one example, the Syrian sort of crisis. Thousands, innocent people, women, children, dying, killing. So these people who mercilessly carry some certain kind of sort of violent sort of act, as far as education is concerned, I think they also is a quite good education. And I often telling people, the September 11th event, those key people who plan these things, who carry this work, as far as their brain is concerned, very smart. The dull person cannot carry such work. So what is wrong? Brain, marvelous. Education, very good. But education now, warm-heartedness, sense of compassion, sense of concern of others' well-being. Now that's lacking. So all these education, sort of say, wonderful sort of brain, dominated or guided by destructive emotion, hatred, anger, and also fear. So now, I usually call the hygiene of physical in modern education, so included these things. And medical science, really, the very detailed sort of knowledge about our physical sort of, the particles and the system of the physical. But real trouble come from mind, come from emotion. Although mind and brain are very close link, but however, basically, the separate entities were separate entity. So now trouble come from emotion. Now, we have to sort of gain more knowledge about mind, about emotion. So that I usually call hygiene of mind, hygiene of emotion. That I think now modern education, I really feel it is something worthwhile. Think more and carry some research. When we talk emotion and mind not just one sort of solid thing, but very, very sophisticated. and ancient Indian psychology, a lot of explanation about emotion. And including Buddhist sort of psychology, a lot of sort of explanation. Almost there is clear map of emotion, map of mind. So now, last 30 years, since we developed, you see, the dialogue or discussion with scientists. So now, after 30 years of sort of discussion, now a number of scientists really showing genuine eagerness to get more information about emotion, about mind. Unless you know better or sufficient knowledge about map of the mind or emotion, difficult to deal emotion. Just one destructive emotion you should develop. Usually you see we rely on taking drug or alcohol. And then worst thing is suicide. Mind is formless. So trouble among the mind or emotion, the remedy must find through emotion, through mind. So I want to share, I believe, our existing education system. I think some education about warm-heartedness, about our inner value, is something necessary. Now and then also you see, today's world actually facing the moral crisis. Many countries, a lot of corruptions. The democratic system, wonderful system. But no matter what the system is good, but person who implement in that system something lacking here, then even best system. You see, sometimes you see become more source of trouble. For example, religion. What wonderful! All major religious tradition, you see, talking about compassion, about love, and forgiveness. Wonderful teaching. But sometimes we notice among the religious people, also corrupted people there. So we're really facing some kind of crisis, moral crisis. Now, to tackle these crises, moral crisis, some my friend, any moral ethics must be based on religion. Then, no matter wonderful one religion's tradition, it can never be universal. Now this problem, now universally now facing some problem. So they because of the remedy for that crisis also must be universal. And then also, you see, recently I saw one report. Out of 7 billion population, over 1 billion, they formally mentioned they are non-believer. So quite a big portion. And those among the 6 billion who supposed believer, but deep inside, many of them not serious. They attend Sunday church or mosque, synagogue, and Buddhist, yes, Buddhist temple. In the temple, in the spiritual sort of hall or room, building looks very holy, looks very sincere. But then outside, Not much concern. So not very serious. Many of these believers actually not very serious. Why? They do not know. They have no full conviction. The moral principles are the most important element of one's own peace of mind. And through that way, healthy body. So people, sometimes you see, religious people, sometimes, they are sort of doing some kind of serving to God, or according to those who teach religion. And even Buddhists also, you see, they consider, I'm sort of serving Buddha. Almost not much sort of related with my own sort of comfort, or sort of
one's own life.
One's own sort of happy life. So these also, you see, they're lacking the conviction about inner moral ethics. Now that only through education, from kindergarten up to university level, educate in order to achieve happy life. We cannot ignore emotion. Emotion is a very, very important element for happy life. So, I feel the modern education should include some education about mind, about emotion, and how to tackle emotion. Now, already, with the help of some scientists and also educationists in America and also in India, we're already working now how to put in modern education field, education about moral or education about warm-heartedness, strictly secular way. We are working. So that I want to share with you. Now some questions.
Thank you so much, Your Holiness. These words are really, really wonderful. When I was 15 years old, I got a Valentine from my boyfriend at the time. And the greeting card inside said, "And what is more important than knowledge?" asked the mind. "Caring and seeing with the heart," replied the soul. And at the time, I was just happy to get a Valentine. But now I kind of feel I have to look for him on Facebook and thank him, because I realize that the essence of this very simple greeting card is reflected in the message that you've said today, and in fact in your recent book, which is the importance of education not just to educate our minds, but also our hearts, and that if we can include compassion training in our education, in our schools, we can arm our minds not just with facts and skills, but to actually gird ourselves to learn personal integrity. So thank you for that. And for those of us who are educators and care very much about imbuing our students with these qualities, we personally feel that there is no better way to get those qualities into our students than to amplify their voices. And so for that reason, we have asked students to submit questions, and we will be taking some of those now. So if we can just ask the students to stand up and say your name and what you are studying in just one word, and then your question. We'll start with question number 1. And where is that microphone?
Yeah.
Where is that microphone? Oh, so it's, sorry, Benjamin Moffat should be first. I'll say your name, how's that? We'll do it that way.
Thank you. My question is about education, especially higher education, how it's increasingly being forced to bend to market logics and is becoming a commodity rather than a public good. You've made it clear today that you think this is a bad thing. My question is, what can we do about this to stop education being a commodity?
As I mentioned earlier, the existing modern education system is something lacking, not adequate to build more sort of holistic human being. Obviously, we have this brain, we have this heart. I think the very life start with full of affection from our mother. Perhaps one, I think, something like sort of half joke. They say, my mother, peasant, uneducated, illiterate, hardworking, like that. But she really provided me immense love. So of course, naturally, when I was there, when I was young, I am youngest, her children. So I received maximum sort of affection from my mother. and then as a villager, you see, wherever she was working in field, these things, she always carried me on shoulder. So then I get used that. Then almost I consider my mother, something like
something like that that carries her.
So my mother used to use me put on her shoulder my two legs, one leg here, one leg here. And I sit quite comfortably. And then holding my mother's two ears. And then when I want to go this side, go that side. If my mother not follow my sort of some kind of instruction, then I shout, go like that. So my mother, you see, so kind person. So that, I think, a little bit spoiled me. So this, not through training, not through education, not through religious faith, but simply biological factor. Now here, few hundred people here, everybody received that kind of affection when we were young. So those individuals who lacks that sort of affection from mother, without sometimes unwanted child, I think terrible. And that also is a mother sometimes abandoned, or abuse. So such people, no matter how apparently smart, successful, deep inside, some kind of fear, some kind of insecurity there. So that person, I think, difficult to show other affection. So then those people who received maximum affection from mother in early age, say 1, 2, 3, 4 years, I think. So those people who received a lot of sort of affection from mother and some parent, some other friend, I think in deep insight, I think much happier, much less fear. And as a result, they communicate with other people more openly, like that. So therefore, these come from biological factor. Now we usually that almost take for granted. No need further nurturing that. Nurturing, physical nurturing is some food like that. mind nurturing is through education, through awareness. That's lacking. So when we grown up, say 10, 15 years, then feel something independence. Eventually, these basic human values are then, because of dominant, right? Become dominant. And sometimes then disappear. The brain then become more dominant force. That also due to environment, the materialistic sort of life, too much competition, too much greed. Then aggressiveness is developed. So now we all, everybody, have the same potential here when we very young. Now later education should something to introduce. These inner values are essential sort of factor for happy life and including healthy body. So some scientists, medical scientists, they usually call healthy body need healthy mind. So constant fear, constant anger is actually eating our immune system. Like that. So I think we 좋은 거래. 좋은 거 맞지? So I think the system is something lacking. That much I know. Then how to improve these things? I have no knowledge or no idea. So you should, students and teachers, you should carry more research. Should not take for granted existing things are perfect. Should not remain that way. Put some, investigate, and every sort of our sort of work with skepticism is very, very healthy. Without skepticism, just take for granted and believe, that's not good. So once Buddha, I'm Buddhist. I'm not a living Buddha, but I'm sort of what I say, I always describe myself as a simple Buddhist monk. I'm a student of Buddhist sort of philosophy or Buddhist sort of psychology, Buddhist sort of these concepts. So Buddha stress, oh my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So in order to carry investigation, you need questions. Question bring by skeptical attitude. If you just believe what teachers say, what such professors say, or they just take for granted 100% correct. That's wrong.
You're right. You are right. I admit.
So I think, for me, I think this is a Buddhist sort of statement. I think very good. Give us liberty to utilize our brain maximum way. Think. So that's, I think, important. Those young people should think, not sort of contented. Now here, I often used to telling people, as far as the material value is concerned, in any way, there is limitation. Even those people who love sort of drink and food, they limit space here. The billionaire and beggar at the same size of stomach. You have plenty of money, you can buy a lot of food, but there's limitation. And then, out of greed, you see, you want more money. Even, you see, they try to sort of take some opportunity making profit the touring moon or Mars. Then beyond that, our life not sufficient. Isn't it? Several light years. Impossible you go there. So in any way, there is limitation. As far as the material sort of facility is concerned, there is limitation. Now, mental development is concerned, no limitation. So usually we just opposite. Material matter, discontent. Always want more, 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 more. Mental good quality is concerned, we're contented. That's wrong. So please think more, investigate, and hopefully, it's those young people, not only one individual, but you see, talk, discuss in your class. And then also, you see, bring some these sort of great sort of teachers and discuss. What kind of sort of, I mean, things where something lacking, how to, savya.
How to overcome them. Or
So discuss, without sort of contented sort of the position.
And I can assure you that the students here, in fact, are already quite skeptical, and they push back on us all the time. So they're on their way to taking your advice already. The next question is from Shernay Woolley.
Indian, Shuni Valley. What's the name?
Shernay Woolley.
Yes.
Your Holiness, do you believe that education bears a responsibility for teaching people about animal care and welfare? Do you think that today animal welfare is valued differently in developed and developing countries?
Oh, I think, firstly, our planet. Oh, where are you? Yeah. Our planet. See, when we visit the more sort of forest area or big sort of tree, some birds there, you feel something fresh. Sometimes you see a lot of forest, but you can't see single bird. And you really feel something missing. So part of the world, part of we. Then, more importantly is, they also have the experience of pains and fears, pleasure. One small insect coming here, if you finger to put there, they immediately withdraw. They feel, oh, there's something new. Maybe could be dangerous. So they have the feeling of desire, not face problem. Then look, animal, when you kill, remaining animal, sometimes deer. They also have the same sort of, I think, some difference of degrees, right? As I mentioned earlier. But basically, the sensorial level of experience is concerned the same. Mental level, some differences because of the brain. But sensorial level, the animal also is the same. So then, sometimes those people who never felt right, some kind of the others' pain, those animals, birds like that, then such people, they eventually towards human being also then more or less sort of same. So that's the seed of violence. That's the source of violence. If you have tremendous sort of respect of others' life, then violence is impossible. So the mind, even animal, or one Tibetan, the retired sort of official, now he eventually immigrated to America. So he, later I met him, you see, he working in kitchen, cleaning vegetable. And he told me, whenever some worms there, he carefully pick up and put one pot, one container. Then after finishing, you see, his work, carried that and outside somewhere, more vegetation, then he was released there. So at the beginning, other sort of worker in same sort of kitchen, when he carefully pick up these worms, the other said, this is useless, this is a waste of time. Oh, there can be attitude. And then they ask, why you are doing that? He explained, we respect the small insects like worms, their life, we must respect, we must protect. He explained. Then later, some of other sort of the employed co-workers also you see start picking up. So eventually these things become some kind of culture, habit. So I think human beings' attitude towards animal too much cruel. And meantime, 7 billion human beings must be vegetarian. That's also difficult. But we must minimize, you see, killing animal. And we, in India, Tibetan refugee community, right from the beginning, we refuse, accept help for poultry, piggery, fishery. We do not accept such sort of help. We are a Buddhist community. One time, one settlement, some chicken, some hens. I asked, what's the purpose? They say, egg. Then I asked if these hens, after a few years, they're no longer egg. Then what to do? No clear answer. So then I requested, if economically this is something highly necessary, then I have nothing to say. If not that much important for settlement, economy field, then please stop using these practice. So now, no longer any sort of the poultry or these things. And then also all our monastic institutions, common kitchen, now last, I think, 10, 15 years, all serving vegetarian food. The individual, up to them. But common kitchen is concerned, now serving vegetarian food. And then also you see, some occasion I expressing the vegetarianism, even for health reason, quite helpful. So you see, promoting vegetarianism, these things, and then animal right, some sort of hospital. So they use experiment, animal, monkey, mice, I think limitless mice. So few occasions in America and also in England or Scotland, I remember Edinburgh University, they carry some kind of sort of large scale of experiment on animal. So when I had invitation, go there, and some people the group of people who fight for animal rights. You see, they wrote me, I should not go there because of the reasons, the main reason, too much exploitation, animal. So these are, I think, very good. Not only concerned about human life, human right, but also animal right. It's very essential. So your question, I think, very good.
Unfortunately, we are coming to the close.
Really?
Yes, you've spoken so
wisely.
wisely.
No hurry. Another, I think at least 10 minutes. Okay, we can go.
I can't imagine that I could do anything but defer to your excellent advice. So maybe we'll just take one more question. Yes. And what I'd like to ask here is, we have a question from a high school student that is not one that we were able to share with you earlier, but if possible, I'd like to share that with you. But I want to give you the chance to pass if you don't want to do it. Okay? Ms. Huda Kasim Mahmoud.
Hello, I was just wondering why education doesn't seem to matter to so many young people. Do you think in the poorer countries they see education as survival, whereas in the richer countries it is seen as just an obstacle to having fun?
That I don't know. I think one way may be my own experience when I was teenage. I am not much interested about study, only play. So I think some of these young people, when class start, feel something boring. When you see sports, are very, very fresh, very happy. Basically, of course, education is very, very important, very important. The meantime, as I mentioned earlier, eventually I think education, more holistic education, then will be immense benefit. So I think basically education is no question. The education, I think we, only human being, this special brain, who have this brain, have the opportunity, study, education. So if this wonderful brain just remain like that, like animal, very pity, wasteful. This wonderful brain must utilize. Next question.
I'm not sure who I'm supposed to defer to here. We were told that can we do one more question? Is there someone that can tell? We definitely, the students want to hear it, so I think given that His Holiness wants it and that you want it, we'll do one more question. This is a question that goes back to what you already spoke of, Your Holiness, about the interdependence of the world, and this is a question from Ana Maria Parada Rodriguez. And that will really be our last question.
Your Holiness, how can education help us to promote compassion for one another, especially since education today is knowledge-based? Thank you.
Karsa. In America, Emory University, and also Wisconsin University, and also Stanford University, in the last few years, already you carry some experiment, some group people, including some student. 3 weeks, some kind of training. That's education about warm-heartedness. Then each day, half an hour or sometimes 1 hour, some kind of thinking, some kind of sort of training or mindfulness, practice of mindfulness or training of mind. before they start that, check blood pressure, the amount of stress, these things. After 3 weeks training, again, test, examine. The blood pressure reduce, stress reduce, and the person become much happier. And then relation or social interaction become much healthier, much happier. So these sort of experiment, totally secular way, not talking about next life, not talking about God or heaven, like that. So simply, you see, they try to become happier person, healthy mind, and automatically healthy body come, like that. So all this, you see, training, just brain education, sometimes too much competition, and jealousy. And jealousy, competition, jealousy comes, then distrust. Distrust destroy genuine friendship. How can you keep friendship with jealousy or distrust? The person who always feel just oneself, I, no bother, no concern about others' well-being, then finally that person becomes lonely person, much fear. I always telling, when I give talk here, I consider myself just one of you. Mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. When you ask your sort of friend, that the first friend is consider living Buddha as nonsense.
I'll tell my friend.
So I think if there's opportunity, you should tell him that Dalai Lama says nonsense. So, of course, the previous sort of lives, some experience, previous lives, there are, of course, some differences. One example, I also feel a certain subject, of course, Buddhist philosophical sort of subject, I, without much effort, seems to see easily grasping the meaning. You see, some say, I think, like I think English. I start learning English 47. I think much earlier, before you born. Many Tibetan who, after come to India, after 59, they start learning English. Now their English really become very good. Me, old student of English, still very poor. So this shows my previous life, no connection with English. My previous life, you see, clearly is some connection with those certain sort of complicated Buddhist concept. I easily understand. And when I discuss with some top scholars who really spent a lot of years, a lot of hardship, when we discuss of course, the variety, their knowledge is much, much wider, much bigger. My knowledge is very limited. But some certain point, it's a difficult point, sometimes my knowledge not bad. So this I really feel some connection with my previous lives. These are something mysterious things. But in any way, that's, I think, everybody. I think student, same class, same teacher, same time, spent, you see, because of that, spend say same duration, but some pick up very easily, some more difficult. So we, not only Buddhist, but also the Indian ancient sort of thoughts, the life after life. So some deep level of consciousness, some imprints of the previous lives. So these things quite sort of mysterious things, not sort of relevant here. So in any way, so training mind really very, very helpful. I think eventually we will find some publication from these sort of experiment. Some of these universities I mentioned, I think eventually may come. You're from England?
No, I was born here.
Born here, oh. But your accent, not a typical Australian accent. Like that. Thank you. Now, if it is, thank you. I wish, you see, these our discussion or my talk, please now take some sort of the subject to think more by yourself, analyze more yourself, and more discussion. And if something you feel quite interesting, then further investigate, further discussion. If you feel this extra burden, then forget. No problem.
If I can just permit...
No need botheration. No.
If I can just permit our student to give a final thanks for you, that would be wonderful.
On behalf of students at the University of Sydney, I'd like to warmly welcome His Holiness to Sydney and thank him for the words of wisdom. And I think I can say for everyone that we feel a lot happier than when we came in this morning. And I just want to share a bit of a journey that I went through with His Holiness's coming. And I'm especially glad and thankful for his presence after a chain of events that some of you may have seen or heard from media reports. For reasons that are very difficult to understand now, this occasion had been canceled until thousands of supporters, many of whom I'm certain are sitting here, expressed their concern against the cancellation. I also wrote a letter, and my personal gratitude goes out to everyone else who signed petitions, wrote letters, and engaged in other online and offline forms of participation. And also the Institute for Democracy and Human Rights, Dalai Lama in Australia, and the organizers for their tremendously hard work in making this event happen. It's especially meaningful that this occasion honors His Holiness's insights on true education. The meaning of education, particularly the roles and expectations of university, have been pertinent in many small discussions in the lead up to today's event. And people who have wanted to make this event happen do so because they believe that the university should not be the place where just the superficial curricula of political and economical convenience are taught. You see, human rights are an important part of my PhD research here, and I've seen in many countries the new ways our freedom can be compromised. We now have covert and cunning forces that silence our voices, quench our curiosity, and make our minds stiff. I was at a panel talk discussion on university and censorship recently, and one protuberant comment from a student has struck me when she remarked, "If the university is not business at the end of the day." It occurs to me that such views may not be abnormal among young people today, especially when our upbringing has coincided with the expansion of privatization, and some of us had quite possibly little interaction with the public education system. I wonder how such things have shaped the learning experiences of today. I think His Holiness's words urge us as society to reconsider the integrity of education and tells us the importance of nurturing our inner beings and attaining education for the sake of humanity and peace, and how that's different from our obsession with the market competitiveness and high ranking. His Holiness's visit is especially meaningful here and now after a challenging semester when this university has seen, and I have witnessed as a student in it, some scandalous media coverage, 5 days of union strike, multiple student protests and support, and government funding cuts, just to name several. And this forum is a perfect place for us to ask ourselves, where do we go from here? So again, I'm sure that you'll join me in thanking His Holiness for his words, guidance, and the journey that he's prompted from the bottom of my heart. I also thank you all for coming and sharing your questions. Thank you.
How many years from here? How many years? Thank you. Bye-bye.